Hello and welcome to your weekly reading for March 29th to April 4th. You are watching Tree of Life Tarot, and this is going to be your weekly Celtic Cross message. So that's a lovely way to start. It's a little harsh, bit of crossing energy there, but we shall see. How are you all doing? It's been some wild energy out there recently. This week, traditionally, those came out last week. For those who might be of the Christian persuasion, this is the week leading up to Easter. It's Holy Week, which is the week of hard lessons, descent, culminating in resurrection. It is the week that reminds us and continually teaches us that there is no resurrection without the underworld journey. And it's one that no one ever wants to take, but it is our great teacher. No, not that one. There we go. Four of Pentacles. Make sure you can see this. So this week, spiritually, can be a doozy. That is too many cards. We're not taking that. All right, we've got some. Oh, hold on. Let's cover everybody up so we don't get in trouble with YouTube. Okay. King of Cups, that came out sideways. We'll take it in the upright. I did note that it came out exactly sideways. Sideways can mean incoming. Oh, that's an interesting place to end. Okay. Bottom of the deck, 8 of Wands. Movement, communication. We'll see as we go if this is incoming or outgoing. Excuse me, my throat chakra has been quite fussy this week. Lots to say. Maybe more needs to be said. We'll hold on to that thought as we go. Okay, so we're beginning here with our Ace of Cups. So, emotional new beginning, fresh start. This is the card of, for me, my cup overfloweth. And it's that new love feeling. And I don't just mean romantic love, although I will note there is quite a lot of romantic love card energy here. So if that is what's on your mind this week, that is present, and I'll address that as we go. But Ace of Cups is, I mentioned the Christian symbolism, and this is, I'm using Christian reference points, but this is a space for everyone, no matter how you relate to the divine. We are all on the spiritual journey. But the cards and the depictions on these cards do come largely out of sort of particular Western imagery and iconography. And here we have the dove descending with a communion wafer into the chalice. So that is sort of an explicitly Christian thing here, but let's take it to a more universal level. Okay, so that dove is what we might call the Holy Spirit. It is the dynamic intelligence of the divine moving through, connecting, teaching, guiding, animating all of creation, the whole universe. And coming into this communion chalice, this is, if you ever take communion, that crosses what's on the wafer. So the body and the blood, I don't want to scare people with the Christian iconography here, but it's right there to be read. And this is the chalice. This is the Holy Grail. And communion is, in a more universal sense, joining oneself to the entirety of creation, the entirety of life, to all that is. So finding with this card a fresh new outpouring of life by joining in communion with the world, with all that is, with life itself, life, capital L, the living soul of all creation, of the dynamic flow on the horizontal and the vertical axes of existence. So finding that emotional new beginning, that new outpouring, by joining yourself to the flow of life. So that's where we begin, and that's quite a beginning. So this is the descent of spirit, is what that card might be called. And maybe you have felt an absence of spirit at times, and that brings us here, because this is our crossing energy. It was crossing, but I'm going to put it like this for now, so we can look at these together. Maybe you have felt an absence of spirits, and oh my goodness, here we go with more church imagery, because this 5 of Pentacles here, being left out in the cold, trudging, disabled and bloody and broken through the snow, through the winter, outside of what? A church, a holy place, a place previously sort of designated for the holding of the spirit, is what in its healthy sort of symbolic form is meant to do. So maybe with this crossing energy, you have felt on the outs spiritually, have felt spiritual impoverishment, have felt like you cannot go into the places where the spirit is, or perhaps you've been cast out and don't know how to find your way back. We all go through those dry spells. We all have seasons of walking through the desert and feeling like it's never going to end. But it does end. It's always there. But sometimes, and that's a whole, maybe one day I'll make some videos about some of these just spiritual principles. When we feel that absence, we are actually coming in usually to greater awareness, because the absence and feeling that longing and feeling that yearning, number one, draws us out. It can draw us out into new ways of connection, this communion. It can also draw us deeper in. And the absence itself, the felt experience of absence, actually signals presence. Because that longing and that yearning and that suffering sometimes is our bridge to it, whatever it is. Whether we're talking spiritually here, your source, your divine, your internal fulfillment, emotional fulfillment. The yearning is part of the maturation, and the absence is the presence. I hope that makes a little bit of sense. Those are big topics, and we'll find ways to sort of go deeper into that with this channel. Or maybe another, we'll see. Now, what was crossing with the 5 of Pentacles here, this absence and feeling cast out of the holy place, is our Page of Cups. So there's a small offering coming in. It's a small message of love. But a small message can go a long way. We have our talking fish here. I like to think of it as the salmon of wisdom. If you ever look into some Celtic or, Northern Western European folklore, there's a salmon of wisdom that has all of the answers. And so here, he has this fish to consult. He has the wisdom of the water. The water is that deep flow out of which creation emerges. It's the emotions, it's the subconscious, and the interior life. So there's a conversation here with the subconscious, or a conversation that puts you in touch with the subconscious. And the subconscious is, of course, where we are connected to the whole collective unconscious. There's the individual and there's the collective, but they are linked. So whether this is an internal process, or this is an offering, an encounter, an interaction with a person that feels like and triggers this fresh descent of spirit and the connection, the reconnection spiritually to that wellspring of love. That is what we're looking for this week. That is what appears to be emerging this week. So this may be another person. It may be internal. I think I've covered that sufficiently, possibly excessively at this point. So let's move on. I think you get the picture. I hope. You can let me know in the comments. Recent past, we have Temperance. Now, I love the alchemy cards. There's many of them in the tarot. And we have a number of cards of balancing here. But Temperance is, number one, tempering. How are we, number one, balancing whatever needs to be balanced within us? Where has there been excess or too much flow or too much drought? I'm hearing with this a little bit of where has the energy been drained? Where has there been leaking, not flowing? So perhaps in the past there's been sort of a Ace of Cups in the reverse situation where it's the draining, it's the spilling out, not the overflowing, as is right and healthy and what we prefer. So the Temperance is bringing that flow back into balance. It's the alchemizing. She's got 1 foot on the ground and 1 foot on the water. So 1 foot in the manifest, 1 foot in the unmanifest. And maybe there's been a need to tap back into those waters, that unconscious realm, in order to find the flow, in order to find that deep wellspring from which life and aliveness and love can flow. So, near future, we have the 5 of Cups and we have the Queen of Swords. Now, the Queen of Swords featured prominently in a recent reading. I feel like it was the end of last week. She has worked through and has her mind clear. She has her boundaries up and she is pointing the way forward. She says laser-like focus on the direction. Now, this also may be, and what I'm getting here is, although I don't see many cards, do we have any wands here? We do not have any. Well, we have the 8 of Wands. But this is not a fire reading. There's not a lot of external activity here. So this is the vision. This is a new way forward, and it is requiring a leaving of the past behind. And this person here does not want to see, I'll show you the card properly. There's 2 cups standing, but this person is focused on the 3 that have spilled. And we can get stuck in that nostalgic longing. Sometimes, what's the best way to say this? When there is something, when we had full cups in the past and they have spilled, something has not worked out, something has disappointed us, there's been a heartbreak. Well, this is less speaking to heartbreak, this is just, it didn't work out. Things were spilled. There's no blame, there's no judgment, it's just some things were spilled. But we can be so focused on, trying to pour the cup back into the water. Pour the water back into the cup, but that's not, that's not what we're doing here. What's needed is the alchemizing, like our Temperance girl is doing here, because there are still 2 cups standing. But the nostalgic attachment and the inability to see what's still standing and what is still on offer, even if it's in a slightly new way. So this Queen of Swords is kind of saying, cut it out. There has been a loss, but there isn't a great loss because, and everything else here is speaking to how much there is to come. this is actually very exciting looking going forward. So if there is still that lingering sadness, that pining for the past, and all is not lost, you know? This isn't, you know, it's not like there are cups here and like, you know, oranges here. There's still cups. There's still the emotional fulfillment. It just, not all is lost. There is still some of what spilled here. It's just going to be carried forward differently. And I want to point out here, we have the Two of Cups here, and if you would turn around, get the head clear, get the mind above the clouds, what do we have down here? We have the actual Two of Cups. So the Two of Cups is already present. And this down here, this position and this spread is sort of what's happening beneath the surface. What is sort of like the underground flow that is animating and orchestrating everything that's happening, excuse me, externally and sort of manifest around us. And what's happening beneath the surface is the Two of Cups. Now, this is a card of soulmates, of romantic exchange. This is, you know, kind of a wedding-like, you know, devotional, mutual commitment and reciprocity is kind of the defining word for this card, phrase for that card. So this Two of Cups is what's wanting to come forward. This Two of Cups is what's wanting to flow out from this great cup and the Ace of Cups here. So that's why all of this is happening. And that's what the Queen of Swords is in service to. So this Queen of Swords, I'm getting a very clear message of meditation coming through. If you have a meditation practice, if you have lapsed in your meditation practice, if you have thought about taking on a meditation practice, whatever that means to you, it could be journaling, it could be walking, it could be your Tai Chi, whatever it is, but meditative practice will help tremendously here, because what's needed is to get the head above the clouds, to clear out the mental clutter. So that's a very kind of clear and specific message of whatever your meditation is for you, or if you've wanted to start a meditation, now is a great time to start. That is the consciousness that's needed here. And maybe I'll do a video on meditation at some point, because it is a wonderful, wonderful tool. And there's different ways to approach it. There's sort of meditations of focusing attention. There's also meditations that sort of invert it with kind of like emptying out attention and distractions, of surrendering thoughts, which allows that flow to come through. Thoughts are always going to flow. These clouds exist, but she is stabilized in the witnessing self, which if you've ever gotten quiet enough in meditation, you know there's your monkey mind that is chattering all the time and that wants to fill the silences. But there's also, and you come to be aware of this, another mind within your mind that is observing you working through the thoughts, that is observing what's happening around you. That is the witnessing self. That is what we might call the higher self. And that is the consciousness that is needed now. That is the consciousness that will lead the way forward, the ability to kind of float a little bit above it and see all of the machinations of the mind and see how the emotions are playing. That's another big topic, but I'll leave that there for now. So you get the message. Time to meditate. Get into that consciousness so that the Two of Cups can emerge. Now, crowning energy here is the Empress. Empress is one of my favorite cards. It's gorgeous, divine feminine energy. It is Mother Earth, Gaia herself. It is the divine feminine principle. It is the principle of fertility, abundance, harmony. And here, with all of this, this is almost like, what I'm hearing is like the goddess's blessing. It is that blessing of that ultimate divine mother who sees a need for more heart-centered expression. Collectively, this is a collective reading also in your life because you are an individual watching and encountering this. So there's some beautiful nurturing energy here. And there's also, we talked about sort of this descent of the spirit, this kind of feeling cut off spiritually. And this is a card, she's deeply spiritually embodied. Embodied is the word here. Because we are sort of have dual inheritances as humanly creatures. We have our sort of divine consciousness and we have our, creaturely physicality. We are both of this world and of, the spiritual as well. But the spiritual cannot be made manifest or cannot express itself without the manifest, without the tangible. That's why we have kind of these archetypes of Mother Earth, Father Sky. They're meant to be in a marriage because one cannot come to its fullest fruition without the other. We need sort of these opposite principles. Spirit cannot do anything without physicality in the manifest. And physicality without the transcendence and the wisdom and the guidance of spirit can just kind of shoot off in a million directions and kind of be in destructive urges or just not have direction and not have coherence. So this is the principle of the physicality that is going to help spiritual expression in this season. So this is a season here, or maybe a week, because this is a weekly reading, of needing to express through the senses. With this meditative consciousness is guiding the physical aspects towards, or is expressing through the physicality in this context. I think I've said it. So that, and this is, again, these are alchemical symbols, the divine exchange here. There's a beautiful duality here. Everything is one, comes back to oneness, but oneness needs to express itself. And to know itself, there has to be two. There has to be relationship. That is what everything is built on. So, let's move over here now. So we've got our Four of Pentacles, Lovers, King of Cups, and we finish with the Hermit and the Sun. So, excuse me. What's shaping this? The Four of Pentacles can be read in a few different ways. It can be read in the limiting sense of holding on too tight, sticking to what's familiar, a little bit of scarcity mindset. But that's not what I'm getting here in the context of this reading with the other cards around it. It can also be a card of foundation building. This city around him, and this is a card of civilization, actually is really a huge aspect of this card. She is nature. This is civilization. This is what humans make with what we have. And a foundation is needed to create all of these buildings. A foundation is needed to, security is not a bad thing. Like everything, it has its positive and its sort of negative aspects, or can be used in different ways. So for here, I'm seeing, this is a new foundation. Four is a card of stability. And I don't see stagnancy in this reading, so we're going to take this in its positive sense of sort of slowly building and establishing a new foundation. The pentacle is on his head, which is sort of, what is that song? My mind on my money and my money on my mind. And he's got it under his feet. So, being oriented towards building that stability, and here in the healthy sense. So the environment here, we've got the Lovers. So card of Gemini, again, if this is a relationship matter, we've got Ace of Cups, Two of Cups, the Empress, Lovers, King of Cups. There is a lot of flowing love energy. So that can be in the sort of divine alchemical interunion sense. If there is a relationship matter at hand, how are you building stability within the relationship so that, or what structures need to be put into place? This is another, and this could be general or relationship, but what structures need to be put into place so that this can thrive? So that the garden, because they're sort of in the garden here with the angel, that sort of archetypal, primordial garden of abundance, you know, before the archetypal fall. But this is a very blissful, you know, union card. So what structures need to be put into place so that, and union is a good word, but harmony, all things operating, this is a very complete card. This is all the elements operating together in their rightful place as they should be. That's what the garden represents, is that harmony. So what structures help the garden thrive? What structures, what kind of practical matters are going to allow this expression? Because this is what's happening in the environment. So this is also, this card is acting on these circumstances. So this is in a lot of ways a bringing of things back into harmonious relationship. This is the desire of, you know, we talked about life itself, to exist in harmonious flow. So if this is a card that's acting on this reading, this is that harmonious desire of life to be manifested in its own harmony, if that makes sense. So King of Cups, that's sort of a hopes and fears position here. So the hope is to be able to live from that flow. He is a king, he is a ruler, he is master of his domain. He is the highest expression of love. And so the desire might, on a very just simply said practical terms, is the desire to have life ordered from that place of love. Is it possible to live no matter what context, whether it's work, whether it's paying the taxes and the bills and just, you know, the tedium going to the DMV of life, whatever it is, to rule life, live life from that highest place of love? That's the desire. That is the hope. To not be living in this place of scarcity and lack and separation, but to flow out. Because life feels better, and it's not possible every second of every day. But with practice and meditation, we can become more stabilized in that energy, in that expression. And life is so much more wonderful when we are living through everything we go through from this place of love, from this place of harmony. And so there's a desire and a hope to be there, having not been there for a while. And then outcomes, or, you know, culminating energy for the week. We have two very interesting energies here. We have two very beautiful energies here, but they are a bit opposite. We have the Hermit, which is turning inwards, and we have the Sun, which is very bright, very external, the happiest card in the deck. So there is that happiness, there is that new light shining. And we have introspection. So this is introspection and extroversion happening simultaneously. Now, the Sun is a star of sorts, and what the Hermit has here in his lantern is a star. So he is still looking towards his hope and healing. He is still following that star to a place of inner illumination, but that inner illumination becomes the sun that shines out and amplifies everything around us, that brings that happiness around us. So this is saying that sun is being found from that inner place of illumination. You are becoming the sun. You are becoming your own sun. And in many ways, becoming a sun for so many other people. When we find our inner light and shine like that, it does bless the people around us and the circumstances around us. So we have a card here of meditation. This is also a card of seeking and introspection. So keep, this is not, in a different layout, I might say there's more of a need to sort of isolate and withdraw here, but that's not what's happening in this deck or in this spread, especially because we're starting off here with our initial energy being this card of communion, this card of, joining your life and your flow to, as we've said, big life itself. So this is, I think I've already said it, I'm being quite redundant today, but this is not to close off and go within. This is your internal work shining outward. Having gone on this journey, being the light, becoming the light itself. So that is a very beautiful reading. And I am going to leave it there. Wishing you all a beautiful week. Lots of love and light. Lots of love and light in this reading. So many blessings, and I will talk to you soon.